Okay, we are resuming open session at 10:21 a.m. after having just come out of closed session. So we need a motion on the executive director review, and I will ask Heidi if she's willing to make that motion.
Absolutely. I move that the executive committee approve the evaluation provided to the executive director and to increase the executive director's compensation to $127,500 effective December 1st, 2022.
Jeannie, can we do a roll call real quick first? I'm sorry, Heidi.
Oh,
Going back
apologies.
into open, I think we need that roll.
Oh, I thought after the motion and the second.
No, just a roll call going back into
Yeah,
open.
Oh,
Because we
roll call.
reconvene, yeah,
Reconvene.
reconvening open session.
Okay, can you call a roll, please, Beth?
Okay, Bertucci.
Here.
Dilger.
Yes, here.
Dabrowski.
Here.
Dorfman.
Here.
Feelig.
Here.
Rosenthal.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
And then now I have a motion.
I'm sorry, and then also present at
I'm
this
sorry.
point is Elizabeth, right, and Rebecca.
And Rebecca.
Oh, let me, and Deborah's coming.
Right.
Yeah, and Deborah when she comes back.
Okay, we'll go get Deborah. Beth, do you need that motion repeated or did you get the motion? It's on the recording, right?
I'd really love to make Heidi repeat that.
I can say it.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I think we have it on the recording.
Okay, but so I have a motion on the floor, but I do not have a second. Could I get a second to that motion?
Dombrowski seconds.
Thank you, Monica. Okay, now we need a roll call on that motion.
Bertucci.
Yes.
Dilger.
Yes.
Dombrowski.
Yes.
Dorfman.
Yes.
Feelig.
Yes.
Rosenthal.
Enthusiastic, yes.
And Smith.
You're here, Smith. Yes.
Okay. So I know that Heidi has other commitments this morning. So Heidi, whenever you need to bow out, that is fine. Thank you,
Thank you.
for leading
Heidi.
that.
Good to see you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So, okay. And thanks to everyone for allowing us to redo the agenda to allow her to do that. Okay, so that leads nicely into our new business 8A, approve agreements with outsource, I believe it's Outsourced Solutions Group, OSG.
That makes more sense.
Or did I take that?
I think I did
So,
it.
do I need a motion before we discuss? Why don't you present it first, Rebecca?
Sure. Upon learning of the absence we discussed, I reached out to 3 different IT support firms, OSG, which is used by several CCS libraries, Current Technologies, which is used by at least Palatine, and IT Savvy, which is our current Microsoft licensing and kind of our general procurement team. They also offer managed IT services. OSG was the most responsive, and I would say the group that most immediately understood what we were looking for. In fact, I never heard back from IT Savvy. I sent a follow-up and they were just like, nope. So no, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you to that. I did speak with a couple of folks at Current Tech, and it was a stressful time for me. We just weren't communicating maybe to the best of our abilities. And I found that OSG was kind of giving me the hand-holding that I needed. So they came out and they did a network assessment, the results of which are included in your packet. And for us, that was kind of like a dry run of do we like them? Do they seem to know what they're talking about? Are they approaching things from a reasonable place? Bob and Deborah were in those meetings with me for additional brains. And we found that they seem very competent. They seem willing to work with us and within our budget. I've asked Bob 17 times. I'm like, Bob, but they know what they're talking about, right? So they've got the okay from Bob. As noted in your packet, they offer two different kind of monthly service levels, a network care or a hassle-free. And the difference is that the hassle-free includes unlimited support for like, I need to reset my Microsoft password, or kind of anything that's below 8 hours of effort. Anything above 8 hours is a project. It is interestingly, OSG suggested that we go with the lower level of support, at least to start, and noted we can bump up if we find that we're spending more hours than we want to. That level of support, they would be responsible, as outlined in the statements of work in your packet, for essentially maintaining our in-house infrastructure. So they would not be doing any Polaris-related work except maybe performing updates on the phone server. All of the regular interaction that library staff have will still continue through our help desk and be picked up by CCS staff. They will do things like maintain our fleet of training laptops and, make sure our firewall security is up to date and all of those things. So, both they and we think that's workable within the scope of that network care managed services. So I'm going to pause there for questions about them in general or those two levels of service.
Just so I'm clear in looking, so the hassle-free is the upper level, and what we're talking about, and then what they're recommending is statement of work number 1, network care secure managed services. Okay.
Yeah, and there are a bunch of add-on services included in that statement of work, but it doesn't agree to any of them. They're things for us to consider, and many of them are not applicable to CCS or would be even duplicative of each other. So it's just that flat rate.
The 600 a month.
600 a month. And then if we wanted to do any additional licensing for other software through them, we could.
The only comment that I had, I talked to Rebecca about this on Monday, was the 100 hours that she's starting with. Probably seems low to me. I suspect we will use more than that over time. So I thought that was a nice conservative number to start with.
Yeah. So to Jeannie's point, we can purchase hours, those support hours ahead. The difference in cost between like the network care and the hassle-free is about 5.5 hours of their time. So if we use, 5 hours or less of support time each month, we're going to come out ahead. Those hours that Jeannie mentioned can also be used for project work. So as I said, anything over 8 hours is considered a project. We have Marcin was actually in process on this Active Directory migration project when he left. And so they're going to pick up that project and complete it. And we can prepay the hours. So in the statement of work for the Azure Active Directory migration, there is a cost listed there. That is if we do not prepay with hours. So as noted, if we bulk purchase hours with a 100-hour block for the best rate, we save about $1,300 against that original quote. So the hours, so we are recommending that we also move forward with the Active Directory migration and a purchase of 100 hours. The 100 hours do not expire, so we don't have to like use them up by December or anything. And 100 hours is their largest block. So that is their best pricing for hours. Their hours are slightly more expensive than current tech, but still very competitive. And honestly, both of them are less than I thought they would be. We pay Innovative $250 an hour for service when we have to pay things hourly. So I was like, "Ooh, 145, sign me up."
Right.
So that says more about Innovative, probably. But yeah, so those are my recommendations. I'm happy to go through things in more detail if you are interested in that, or answer any questions you have. Yes.
Joanna. Oh,
So just to click, so network care is gonna be $600 a month, and that's for as long as you need it until, Marcin comes back or something else is decided. And then
Mhm.
the Active Directory is a one-time project, and is it $5,920?
Yeah, so if we buy the prepaid hours, that price would come down to about $4,640
Okay.
dollars. It is time and materials, so it could be less than that, but it doesn't include, you saw in the SOW, there was like a $600 license fee
Like
to
an,
pay.
yeah, a
And
migration
then
tool.
I have also talked with them. We have to our business license with Microsoft Office right now doesn't include this Active Directory tool. So there's two different pricing options we're looking at to just bump up our regular Microsoft license.
Okay,
Which I believe Marcin was looking at. He's like, oh yeah, we get a 1-year free trial and then it's a nominal fee. And so that is in line with what OSG is with one of the options that OSG is talking about.
okay, so this 32 project hours comes out of that 100 hours.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Sounds good to me.
And I have a question, Rebecca. If we want to add on more hours, what kind of blocks are they sold in? Like what's the min and it sounds like the max might be this 100. What's the minimum block hours we can purchase?
I mean, we can purchase just hourly. We can just purchase 1
okay.
hour at a time. And it's, I'm sorry, I didn't put that in the packet. I think there were 4 blocks and it goes down $10 an hour per block. So
Okay.
the 100 hours is the smallest block. If we wanted to do a project and just pay the SOW for the project, we can do that. Or we can buy, do you have them up, Deb?
Yeah, it looks like
It's on
the
page
lowest
78.
block is 25 hours and the highest is 100 hours.
Okay. So it's probably 25, 50, 75, and 100 or something like that in the blocks.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, it actually is on page 78 if you
Oh.
wanted to look at it there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There's a lot in this packet and I sent it in like 18 chunks. So I'm like, I don't know, it's not in the packet. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Jeannie.
That's okay. So I was going to comment, like, first of all, I do think that this is a good approach. I think we need to recognize that this is not going to be a quick return for this employee. And so my question is, and again, I don't think, I think that we should spend this money, but how is it going to impact our budget? You mentioned that Marcin is now going on unpaid leave.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel? Do we need to amend the budget in any way?
You know, that whether or not we do a budget amendment, I can talk to our accountant if you want. We have some funds in the budget for project help, not enough to cover this for the year, but so assuming that we have no more personnel costs, well, no more salary costs for this employee at this time for the rest of the year, after deducting the hourly or the monthly network care cost of $600 a month, we are left with 472 hours of work where we'd like break even on personnel budget. So we'd be under in personnel and then over in like maintenance agreements. So and that's not affecting the overall budget line. So I don't know if we'd only want to do an amended budget if we were gonna, kind of blow past that. One thing that OSG has offered to do, which I haven't pressed them on at this time, is to assign rough hours to all the things listed in their recommended projects. But I wanted to narrow down there's a ton of recommended projects there. They and we all know that we're not going to do them all, especially this year. So I was going to work with Bob and Deborah, and assuming we onboard with OSG, our rep at OSG, to identify which are the most pressing, and then can look at whether we can blow past that 472 in hours or not.
Lauren, as treasurer, do you have a thought on that?
I do. I would recommend that we do not amend the budget because we don't want it to appear as if we didn't need personnel expenditures in this year. So it's not like we operate within an appropriation framework that cannot be exceeded in different line items.
Right.
The overall budget number is unaffected. I would prefer that we just go over in managed services and remain under in personnel, and then keep that personnel history so that in future years, when you ask for what you need for, regular staff, that it's going to stay consistent.
I see a lot of nods from the committee, so I think that sounds like a good approach. But Rebecca, if the accountant feels differently, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a less intense issue. We did have to hire some project help before when we were short-staffed, and we took a similar approach. We did not amend the budget and just noted kind of at year end in the annual report or when we were doing the budget the next year why things looked unusual.
And at some point, both the auditor and the accountant will say, no, don't amend, right?
Yeah.
We close, especially
Yeah.
once we finish the audit. So now would be the time to ask, but
Yeah.
I feel like we probably will defer to Laverne saying as our treasurer.
Okay. My other question is, you mentioned being able to reassign some tasks to staff. I'm assuming that you'll be looking at their priorities then, and what kind of impacts will this have on service to members?
Yeah, at this time, I don't think it's going to be a huge impact. So, Deborah actually just led the team in a ticket time tracking activity. Especially one of Marston's regular Polaris responsibilities is new username, like managing all of the usernames and accounts. And so a lot of those tickets come in on the day-to-day. So we had Bob working on those tickets in addition to his regular tickets, and we happened to be tracking time during that period. And it was still overall very manageable. We're actually continuing to track ticket time because I have found it very helpful to see. And I think staff, it's like there's this perception of like, oh, I had so many tickets today. It's like, all right, it was like an hour and a half of tickets, like you're fine. So I do think we have the bandwidth to pick up the Polaris related stuff, and that Bob had already been doing much of that. That was kind of the division of labor within IT. So a lot of Marston's work was related to infrastructure. So I don't think this will have a big impact. We are continuing to assess workload, and we'll let you know if we need anything, but I think we're good.
Any other questions about this before we go to a motion? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the agreements with OSG.
I will take a stab at making a motion to approve the network care managed services agreement at a fee of $600 per month, plus the 100 hours of additional service for a total of $14,500, effective to have the executive director enter into such an agreement.
Second.
Thank you.
Is that Lindsay?
It was Becky, yes.
Becky.
Becky, thank you.
Lindsay's mouth moved too, so it was kind of both of us.
It was like a puppet show, kind of.
It was, yeah.
Nicole, ventriloquist.
We're gonna give one to Becky this time. Okay, Beth, roll call, please.
Bertucci,
Yes.
Filter,
Yes.
Dombrowski,
Yes.
Dorfman,
Yes.
Felix,
Yes.
Rosenthal,
Yes.
Smith. Smith is not
Okay.
here, sorry.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for that. I'm looking for my notes here. Okay. So now we move into new and potential members. I think Rebecca maybe was going to address Waukegan.
Yes. And I think this is hopefully your last action. Beth's working so hard over there with all of her notes. So as you all know, we've been talking with Waukegan for several months. They, at their August board meeting, voted to accept the CCS bylaws and authorize a resolution joining CCS and comply with the IGA and the bylaws. So at this point, we would be looking to make a recommendation from executive committee to governing board on their membership. I would just like to say Tiffany did not intend to fill out this application written in pencil. I sent her the wrong version that wasn't fillable, and she just did it instead of requesting a new one. So I appreciate her doing that. It's been on my list to like type it up to make it easier to read, but I haven't gotten there. So Tiffany does know how to use the internet. I just sent the wrong form. So I don't want anyone making assumptions. They would go live with Mount Prospect. We've done 2 libraries before. We think we can do 2. We know we can do 2 libraries again. I've included their the quote with their costs here. So one thing to note is that they are not currently an OCLC member. The quote that OCLC gave us for their membership is I believe like $17,000, but you'll note on page 53 of your packet, the annual OCLC that Waukegan would pay is actually less than $7,000. And that is because of how we redistribute OCLC costs within CCS, which may lead you to think, well, my OCLC costs are going to go through the roof. But it all kind of evens out because Mount Prospect is currently underpaying for OCLC. And when they join, they will take a higher percentage and things will be pretty much a wash. As part of the budgeting process, I did kind of run these numbers because we had considered using development dollars to help smooth an OCLC transition for new members. And Palatine came in paying $300 a year for OCLC and is now paying
$260 a year.
Okay, and now they're paying $20,000 a year.
Yes.
So it just depends who takes a hit and who gets a break. And I do think it is a more equitable approach to accessing those services, but it is messy. So I just wanted to be very upfront about that. But again, with the Mount Prospect addition at the same time, everything levels out at once instead of having to wait for someone else to join to level it back out. I do anticipate with Mount Prospect and Waukegan joining, and this was taken into account when drafting their quotes, that we would see an overall fee increase. We haven't raised our top line billings in several years. And so libraries have seen most libraries have seen significant decrease as a result of that. We will raise that overall top line billing, but libraries themselves won't see an increase because it'll be divided amongst additional members. But the decrease that libraries should expect would be less or about even, if that makes sense. Okay.
Anything else on that, Rebecca, before we go to a motion?
Only if there are questions.
Okay, I think we've discussed this a few times, so I will at least start with a motion to approve Waukegan Public Library for CCS membership.
I'll second.
Okay. All of those in favor, wait, no, we don't do that here. Roll call, please, Beth.
Roll. One more time. Bertucci,
Yes.
Filter,
Yes.
Dombrowski,
Yes.
Dorfman.
Yes.
Felix,
Yes.
and Rosenthal.
Yes. CCS is gonna own Lake County. Come on.
I mean, whatever, it's cool. We're just here to provide services.
I have a big Lake County map up in my office and I keep looking, I'm like, man, there's like nothing left that's not CCS now with this.
We are the cool
Pretty good.
kids club, so everyone wants to be with us.
No. We're fashionable now. Okay, so moving on to Warren Newport project. Deborah, you want to give us a final update on that?
Sure, yeah. So we had a successful War Newport launch last week with, I would say, overall really minimal issues. So we're really proud of ourselves. It was Mieko's first time leading a project of this size, and I think she knocked it out of the park for sure. So props to Mieko. So currently CCS staff are focusing on supporting War Newport staff post go live, as well as some database cleanup tasks that accompany every single migration, including merging duplicate patrons, merging duplicate bibliographic records, and so on. So that work will probably take us a few more weeks, but we are making progress on that.
Can I just pause here to shout out the member services team plus Bob? Deborah referenced that cleanup will take a few more weeks. When we brought in Morton Grove and Indian Trails, that cleanup was taking months.
Correct.
Because it was all manual. So Deborah and her team and Bob have worked together to use the power of technology and to build some processes around that. So to move from months to weeks is a huge deal. And I just want to congratulate them on that. Way to go, team.
Nice job.
Yeah, we're getting better every time we do this. So next year it's going to be even faster. So this afternoon, CCS staff are going to participate in a project retrospective activity where we talk about all of the things that went well, as well as the areas in which we can make improvements for next time, because next time is, as we just voted, right around the corner. So I think we're all looking forward to having that discussion and seeing where we can make improvements for Mount Prospect and Waukegan. So overall, really happy with the project.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to the team for sure. So speaking of upcoming, anything we need to know about Mount Prospect?
Yeah, I mean, their team has been kind of digging into their data and sending in some tickets, which I love, trying to just understand ahead what they can be doing to make all the cleanup and everything more seamless. So I love that for them and us. We anticipate they will start coming to more meetings as we move further into the fall, since their membership becomes effective in November, when that resolution kind of flips that clock over. I am still in conversation with a couple of other libraries, but nothing firm has come out of them. Cook Memorial, I think, was doing due diligence on the part of a board member request, and if I had to say, is not that interested in CCS, but wanted to again fulfill some board member requests. Vernon Area Public Library does seem more interested and is working out some scheduling because they have a lot of big projects cooking. The last I heard from their director was probably within the next 3 years, but probably not right now. So that's all very exciting. And we're happy to help any library. I don't want to drag anyone kicking and screaming, right? So when we get a library that's approaching that's well, I don't know, it's we're just going to answer. We don't do a big sales. We're really here as a resource to help you understand. Here's what I would look at if I were in your shoes. Here's the money info. Here's the stuff. And then you decide what's best for you in your community. Do I think it's CCS? Probably, but that's not my call. So,
Okay. So that covers potential new members. Innovative updates, and I've lost track of my notes. Is this Deborah or Rebecca?
I can give a quick update. Don't really have anything new since the last meeting. We continue to meet with Innovative weekly and make really just minor tweaks to system jobs and processes to improve performance. But overall, system performance has been very smooth, which is a great sign, especially after we added a new library in the past. We've typically had some system performance blips in the week after adding a new member, and we did not see those this time around. So I feel pretty confident that the fixes that are in place are effective.
And I just want to give another shout out to Deborah. One of the reasons we didn't have blips this time around is because she was why don't we start Warren Newport e-content integration well in advance of go live and do it so the system can catch up instead of trying to do it in all one day. And she did it and it worked.
worked.
So way to go, Deborah. Thank you
We keep
for,
learning stuff. It's good.
and Deborah brought that idea to Innovative and was like, hey guys, what if we did this? So very impressive.
Nice.
Thanks.
They should be paying her a consulting fee.
I think so.
Okay, and then alternate text message service, Message Bee. Everything
Oh,
going
that
okay?
one's- Yeah, so late last month, all a blur, I think that was August, we did roll out Message Bee to all of our members. So moving forward, we will now send text message notices through Message Bee instead of through Polaris. So that rollout went relatively smoothly. Kathleen this week is leading training for library staff on how to use the Message Bee portal to run reports and monitor undeliverable notices. So again, so far that transition has been relatively smooth with no major issues at this time.
Okay. Any questions for Deborah on the innovative updates? Okay, moving on to reports. So president's reports, I have two things that I want to share. As I believe you are probably all aware, this is Lauren's last meeting with us as treasurer. I, for one, will be really sorry to lose her, both from the director cohort, but also from the CCS treasury role. So thank you so much, Lauren, for everything that you have done for CCS. We will have to come visit you in Barrett.
I won't be far.
Yes. And on that note, I just wanted to share, since Heidi wasn't able to hang around, that based on the bylaws, Heidi as past president is working on filling that treasurer vacancy. I don't know if we have any updates on that, right, Rebecca?
I can fill in because I'm also on that committee, Jeannie.
Great, Monica. Thank you.
Yeah, so Heidi did send out an email yesterday, and we have had one respondent already saying that they would be willing to fill that role, who fulfilled the role in the past. So we'll see who else we get, and then bring that information forward. But yeah, so far we already did find someone that was willing to step in, which was great news.
And remind me, I know we talked about this when I first heard the news and I looked at the bylaws, but does this go to the full governing board for a vote?
Yes.
So the timeline for that is for the November governing board when we would have a vote, correct?
Yes.
So in the interim, I am authorized to sign checks. So I think we'll be fine. Okay. Secretary, any secretary's report?
No report.
Treasurer, Lauren, any last words?
Sorry. No last words.
Sounds very murdery.
Committees and groups, the report is on page 48. Did anybody have any questions about that? Any of those?
Can I just add a note here for committees and groups? Currently, Rachel and Kathleen are working on an activity for the upcoming CAM meeting, which is catalogers and metadata management. I did get a call from a director. There seemed to be amongst the catalogers some concerns that we are going to take away the staff client and make them all use Leap. That is not the case. We will be doing an activity at the CAM meeting to look at the cataloging processes in Leap and identify things that are, it's called Rosebud and Thorn. So like things that are good, things where there's opportunities, and things that are bad, or prickly, I guess. So we are doing that activity at the CAM meeting, but it is not intended, again, to force anyone to use Leap. Warren Newport was largely trained on Leap for technical services, and they will be using Leap for most technical services processes. That is an option for libraries, but it's not even something that we've like rolled out the training for. But if you hear any again, whatever concerns were made after the last CAM meeting made it to a director and made it up to me. So I don't know what is happening in your libraries, but just a heads up. The staff client is not going anywhere as far as we know. So I look forward to the results of that activity at the upcoming CAM meeting. That was it. Thank you, Jeannie.
Okay. And then executive director's report.
I'm happy to take questions on anything in my report. I have nothing specific to add.
Anyone have questions?
It's pretty much all covered in the other business, so.
Yeah.
I think we've
Yeah.
already
The big
dealt
one.
with all the big stuff. So,
It's a big
okay.
one.
Well, that is it then, unless anybody has anything else they would like to add. I will say that we are adjourned at 10:56 a.m. Thank you all for your time this morning.
Thank you.